Good afternoon. We will begin our session in just a minute. Good afternoon, and welcome to our session on how to navigate COVID with takeout and delivery. I'm Robert Grimes. I'm the CEO of the IFBTA. And to get us started today, let me mention that this session is sponsored by YouEat. And as the pandemic has been brutal, but as a restaurant owner, you can still thrive. If you're looking to make it through these unprecedented times and turn a better profit, why not offer online ordering, which of course is the subject today as part of delivery and things, right on your website and in our app. YouEat is the easiest way to use a white label online ordering platform designed by people who understand the restaurant business. Takeout, delivery, curbside pickup, and more improve your margins and boost each ticket size with YouEat. And they're happy to help you protect your business. And as our panel is going to discuss today, we're going to give you some ideas actually how to leverage both takeout and delivery, which of course is part and enabled by the online ordering process as well. With that, and thanking our sponsor YouEat, let me give a brief introduction into the IFBTA. The IFBTA, the International Food and Beverage Technology Association, is a not-for-profit trade association that's focused on food and beverage technology from the aspect of promoting technology, providing networking and education for our members. Our membership is open to all. Suppliers and operators both participate and have an open seat at the table. And we reach our membership a number of ways. One way is through our regional and local chapters, of which we have 10, including 2 outside the United States. We have a virtual chapter, and then we run events at industry events in the IT sector and the food and beverage sector. Of course, things have been a little bit delayed this year and challenging because there haven't been a lot of events, but we've been very successful at running virtual events and also virtual chapter meetings to bring people together to share information, as we're going to do today on this webinar. The IFBTA also has a certification program to certify people in food and beverage technology. It's a great way to understand all the technologies that are available, and the IFBTA extends its reach through our partnerships with states, the National Restaurant Association, and partners such as Clarion, who's putting on this webinar today and represents the Florida, California, and New York restaurant shows. But before we get started, let me cover a few housekeeping items. You have been encouraged to submit questions in advance, but you can submit questions through the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen. When you do that, it would be great if you would specify which speaker, but if you don't specify one, I'll just assume that it's going to be for everyone. We would ask you to stay away from questions that regard sales, pricing, political discussions, and any disparaging remarks. You will be muted throughout the session, so if you need to chat with myself, the panelists, or the organizer, you can go ahead and chat through the comments section, but please do submit your questions in Q&A. Following this session, there's going to be a recording that will be available through foodandbeverageshows.com and the ifbta.org and on social media, and I'm sure that YouEat will also make them available through their channel as well. So with those rules and with the housekeeping, let me introduce our speakers for today's panel. And if you guys would turn on your video and microphone, and we will be good to go. Okay, so let me welcome today's panel, and I think you're going to see that we have a very good cross-section of panelists today representing different areas of the industry, but not only in their current companies and their current organizations, but also through their history and who they've been with in the past. I think that they have a very good, well-rounded perspective on this subject, and really at the end of the day, it's not necessarily all about COVID, but it's actually what do we do to take advantage of some of the opportunities that may have been brought about with COVID, but still, until there's a solution to this, how do we deal with those challenges, especially in the takeout and delivery markets, which which have been impacted in some ways very negatively and very positively as opportunities to stay in business. With that, I'd like to introduce our panel, and I'm going to ask each one of our panelists to introduce themselves, their background, and give a little bit of their perspective on this subject. After that, we'll do a moderated Q&A session and discussion, and then we will open it up for the questions that you submit towards the end. So TJ, why don't we go ahead and start with you?
All right, thanks, Rob. Hey, I appreciate everybody spending some time to be here today and listen to what we have to say and learn from us. And I know I always learn more from everybody else on the sessions, fellow panelists, and the questions. So thank you for having me. My name is TJ Scheer. I have been a multi-unit Which Wich franchisee for just about 14 years. We peaked at 17 restaurants. I currently have one right now. Has a drive-through, so knock on wood, been very fortunate through the unfortunate events we have this year. But I have spent the last 20 years speaking and consulting in the areas of guest service and systems and hiring and those kind of things. But really what I've had to do with the pandemic to keep my business afloat is really focus on a few things. And I have been very fortunate in that I co-host a podcast called the Takeout, Delivery, and Catering Show. So I have been exposed to some of the leading companies out there, interviewing them as guests, and it's really helped my business. And what I've done in my restaurant is really use it as a lab for what works, or tried some things that don't work. But I've really focused on a few things here during this time in the takeout and delivery space. One is tomorrow I'm launching a hybrid delivery model. So we use third parties. Everybody curses third parties. There's obviously a place for all of them in our world because we need them, and we're not all delivery experts. But I'm in the process of launching a hybrid delivery model where we're doing limited self-delivery to targeted businesses to really move my business forward. We've also just implemented a off-premises guest service feedback loop, which again, because in the past when we've had everybody eating in our restaurants, it was real easy to get feedback. Receipt surveys work well. People don't want receipts right now. They don't want you touching things. They're not eating in our restaurants. And I've really just between my drive-through and my online ordering launched 2 different vendors to help me get feedback from our guests. And it's been very, very valuable for us in using that data to help our teams improve service. And it's typically around order accuracy. And so we've really helped move our business forward because the foundation of success in takeout and off premises is safety and trust. And to build the trust, we've got to be safe, we've got to be accurate, and the guest feedback loops really helped us. And then finally, we've really worked on food quality because again, when somebody's eating your food in your restaurant, they're getting it right from the oven to the table, and now they're not. It's getting eaten 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 50 minutes later. And so we've really had to kind of reformat some of our packaging and some of the delivery, the delivery methods that we all have to use there to focus on food quality. So those are the 4 things that I'm really focusing in on as an operator, and I look forward to hearing what the rest of the panelists have to say as well.
Great. Well, thank you very much, TJ. Matt, do you want to go next?
Yeah, happy to. Thanks for having me as well. Very excited to share some insights with everyone. I'm Matt Smith, Chief Marketing Officer for Tocaya Organica. We're a 17-unit fast casual modern chain based in Los Angeles with locations throughout Southern California and Scottsdale, Arizona, as well as Phoenix. And we were very fortunate, to make off-premise delivery and takeout a focal point of our business prior to COVID. So we were I would say better situated for what's happened the last 9 months than most brands, but still there's been some challenges, obviously, as there has been across the industry. And some of the things that I've been working on and some insights I want to share with everyone, are looking at kind of the nuances of third-party delivery and takeout. So, seeking higher basket sizes, what we can do on our platforms to offer things like family packs, meal plans, and even multi-packs of existing items. Something as small as if you sell a bottle of Coca-Cola, why not offer a 6-pack at a slightly discounted rate and try to drive up that basket size? Being cognizant of price sensitivity, I think the consumers are getting a lot smarter around hidden fees associated with third parties. Obviously, on the restaurant side, we need to account for that, but how are we comparing with competitors? Because with more and more people ordering delivery and takeout, they're likely spending more, and there's some price sensitivity, we need to be cognizant of. We also, realize that people are very deprived of experiences right now, and we really try to think about how we can create experiences for them inside their home. Everything from, taco bars to, looking at our entire packaging suite and trying to do something a little more innovative, to creating date night boxes and things of that nature that are going to really, create experiences for our guests. We've also launched a virtual concept, basically a spin-off of Tocaya, which uses the same labor and the same ingredients, while casting a wider net on our communities and giving us some more visibility in-app. And that's been really successful for us. And then, lastly, I think there's a thought in our industry that there's big bad third party, and they come and they take all our sales and take huge commissions, and what was life like before them, and how do we deal with them? And it can be challenging, but I'm of the belief that there's a way to work with them and to really strategically think about relationships with third parties, which third parties, to optimize that element of our business. In our case, we have regional exclusivity with Postmates, and we've gotten a ton out of that. Everything from increased searchability, in-app visibility, strategic promotions, insights on our guests that we can use not just on delivery, but across everything we do. So, I'd be happy to expand on any of that in the Q&A, but just excited to share with you whatever I can.
Great, thank you, Matt. Robert?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here. So Robert Notte, VP of IT at Mod Pizza, and Mod Pizza is a fast casual pizza concept based in Bellevue, Washington. We're approaching our 500th store. We're in 28 states. We're in 3 countries, Canada, US, and California. I'm sure you could all relate to that. And Mod, though we're a pizza concept, we really exist to serve people. Our purpose is around serving people. And as a matter of fact, our vision is to contribute to a world that works for and includes everyone. So if you think about Mod being a company that serves people and is all about that in-store experiencing Mod when you come to our stores, and then COVID hits, right? Well, the whole model kind of flips upside down, because now people aren't coming to your store, right? They're not coming to experience Mod, and that demand has really shifted to digitally. So how do we still deliver that Mod experience to the new digital world? So that that is one of the challenges that we've been working on for quite some time now, even before Mod, because before the COVID pandemic hit, is how do we deliver that Mod experience to the digital customer? So that's one. Number 2 is how do we sustain and grow our digital share, right? So how do we adapt the stores to handle more of our digital volume? Pre-COVID, we were kind of slow to the digital game. We were experiencing about 10% digital volume, and like many of you, once the pandemic hit, that model kind of flipped over. Now, we're seeing 70-80% digital. Now it's come down somewhat, but we still have to be able to sustain that model. So we're doing things like digital make lines, digital kitchens with KDS and order status boards, two-way communication between customers and the squad. So we're looking at things like that to help with the digital volume. And one key focus is that we have to make it easier for our squad. Because if we don't make it, if this technology isn't helping our squad, it's not going to improve the guest experience. So we have to keep that in mind, that whatever we do really needs to help our employees. So yeah, I'll stop there and turn it back over to you, Rob.
Well, what I always find interesting is the number of things that come up when people share their perspectives. So the very first thing that came up, what Matt shared with us, was he actually got into a little bit there, talking about how there's a lot of discussion and debate on the model of outside delivery. And I think you said something about big bad third party, if I got that right. But at the same time, TJ, you are talking about hybrid models in there, and you have actually a blog that you do on that. So I was thinking that perhaps between the two of you might want to share a little bit more perspective, not necessarily where we've been, which before COVID people were talking about rates and whether they should be in there, but where we actually think we're going to go, what the positive impact may be of this on continuing to grow, perhaps, you know, the new day part and additional business. So Matt, maybe you want to just talk about your perspective on that a little bit further, and then TJ, maybe you want to comment from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of thoughts there. First of all, you know, the fact that these companies are getting our food in people's hands and new people's hands is extremely valuable. And we're hopeful and confident that we'll deliver on our end of the promise and create a good product that, you know, they have an alliance to our brand and not just kind of the you know, go between that got our food to them. You know, I think that a lot of times people really, especially in negotiations with third parties, really stress about commission, and commission is absolutely important, especially if you're interested in good top line and bottom line. But, you know, I don't think enough restaurants talk to third parties about visibility in app. You know, you could have a 2% delivery commission, and if you're on the 8th page, or when someone searches for burritos, they can't find you. 2% of nothing is nothing. You know, 30% of 100 is 30. So, you know, I just think that there's a narrative about these massive commissions, which, you know, I completely agree with. I mean, 30% is not sustainable, nor is 25 or 20, but there's a more strategic way to go about it. And the reason I mentioned our regional exclusivity with Postmates is, you know, just because there are 10 different third parties doesn't mean you need to be on all of them. There's a way to leverage the competition in that space to find the right fit for you, the one that's going to give you great account management, the one that's going to give you insights, and not necessarily go exclusive with one, but maybe work with a select few and leverage your ability to choose which ones you work with to get more, rather than just kind of signing up and throwing your restaurant on the platform. With that, I'd love to hear TJ's thoughts.
But you would not turn off, you wouldn't exclude some parties in it. It's just you would have a preferred one.
We do. We have one single third party delivery company.
Okay.
In LA. It's Postmates, and you know, there's, without getting into too much details about what that entails.
But that is a decision point, and maybe TJ, you know, you spend a lot of time talking about this. You might want to comment on one exclusive perhaps versus multiple, but also the hybrid model. I think that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I think I feel more comfortable talking about that question than the one about why should you go to one or the other, because I haven't really experienced that. Having had restaurants in Dallas, Houston, and now outside of Austin, we've always dealt with multiple vendors. I can't say any of them have really just moved the needle for us, but again, being a franchisee, we're at the discretion of our franchisor in a lot of cases. So we don't have a ton of say-so in things like exclusivity and those kind of things. And, you know, the franchisor is trying to do what's best in general for everyone. So it's real hard for them in their case to do that as well when you're spread out all over the US. What hit me fairly recently actually was, you know, when you look at, as an example, Easy Cater, and not that everybody's doing a lot of catering these days, but I was always of the angst, and having written a book on catering, I always used to tell my stores, we want to self-deliver all first-time orders to talk to the guest, even if they're ordered through a third party like Easy Cater, and any large order, because we have got to make sure they're done right. We take care of the guest and those kind of things. And as we've evolved over time, we have a preferred delivery partner that we use when we have catering orders. If we can't do it ourselves, we enlist them to do this versus the standard third party. And I would just equate that to, you know, if you're old enough like me where you remember taxis and kind of town car service, We have a preferred provider who's more of a town car service that is an expert in setting up catering and those kind of things. And so as I looked in my market about how can I move the sales needle, what we have chosen to do is selectively deliver to key local businesses in our area. So we have better control over that. We can offer lower prices to the guest. We're actually partnering with some of the local limited service hotels, so we can actually incentivize the hotel and give a portion of the sales, not 25, not 30% to the hotel, to get them to promote our brand in their hotel. And then we've got some key local businesses. So in those cases, what happens is we give them a specific QR code. We have a pretty slick piece of technology that we've subscribed to. And so we know where the order's coming from. It comes to a tablet, similar to how everybody else works, because it's not integrated with our POS, although it integrates with a lot of other POS systems. But then we can self-deliver to those companies. And what we're finding, and again, we're getting ready to launch this week, actually, these places are interested in it because it helps them save their employees or their customers some money. We have a little more control over the product. We can get it to them quicker, and it gives us a marketing opportunity as well, and control over that piece. So I was really looking at this from an operator standpoint, and all I hear is everybody gripe about third parties. Well, you know what? Do something about it. So I'm going to do something about it in my business, see what happens, and see if it works.
Just to clarify something that you said, you are a franchisee, but it is the hybrid program being offered by your franchisor, or are you making it hybrid because you're doing some things for your own catering side?
Good question. We have found this on our own. We're doing this on our own. Since I live a dual life as a consultant in this area, we're a test store for the franchisor, but they're letting me test it because I'm the one testing it on my own. And hey, you know what? If it works, great. They'll probably introduce it to everybody. If it doesn't work, they'll probably never hear about it again. But you know, the other benefit I think that I found with this system that we're using is we can do park order pay as well. We can do curbside. So when somebody places an order, even if it's through our existing online ordering company, I can send them a text through this platform. So I know when they're there to cut down on the phone calls in the restaurant, which is something that really just drives our operators crazy. And even call-in orders, I can just send the guest a text message and just let them pay online. So when they come in, it's reduced the friction that they have in the restaurant, which really that's what takeout and delivery success is all about, is reducing friction.
Okay, so Robert, I saw you shaking your head about that. You know, you are a franchisor, and you have you know, a number of different things there. So how does that work within your system? I mean, 3 countries and 38 states. So how's that work?
So we're mainly, so we have about 80% company stores, 20% franchisees. So the world of third-party delivery is a fascinating world for me. It's a love-hate relationship. You can't live with them, can't live without them. You know, they're not making money, and you know, we're paying, you know, significant commissions. So there's got to be a middle ground here where you know, we could both be profitable with this segment. The you know, what fascinates me though is looking at data, the statistics from the digital volume, and how consumers behave with that third-party marketplace versus the typical mod customer. Things like when there's you know, during the holidays, you just went through Thanksgiving. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving, by the way. And seeing how customers behave, you know, through the third-party marketplace versus mod customers. It's really interesting, and it really tells me that customers that go through the DoorDashes, the Postmates, are very different than typical customer that comes through mod. And you know, I'm sure everyone's dream is to convert those customers over, but you know, having tried different tactics over the years, that is a very difficult thing to do. We find that customers are very loyal to their marketplace, and haven't found a great way to get customers converted over to our own brand.
So, you know, Robert and Matt, you both spoke about a very unique connection with your customers. And how do you maintain that connection with the customers if they're not continuing? How do you maintain as you change your business model to offering more things that are outside or pick up, or you may get to touch them as they pick up, but how do you maintain that unique experience that both of your companies are really known for?
Yeah, great question. So, we've been tossing around a number of ideas. We use third-party marketplace to deliver our food for customers ordering through Mod. And we've been tossing around the idea with using our own drivers. So that would be one way to extend the Mod experience, as I was talking about earlier, to customers' front doors. And there's opportunities maybe on our app and website that we could do to further enhance the guest experience when ordering through Mod. But that is a challenge. That's why it was #1 on my list earlier, as far as how do we extend that Mod experience outside our doors. So
Matt?
Yeah, a couple things to clarify from previous points. One, I feel guilty about being like the guy with the third-party foam finger, because we're very fortunate in that we have a lot of leverage, right? That obviously helps in that we have 11 restaurants in Los Angeles. Nationally, we're a top 5 brand per unit on Postmates. So obviously, that's going to give us a lot more negotiating power than a single unit brick and mortar that is just getting going. So I feel guilty for that, but that's the situation we're in. And the reason we went exclusive with Postmates in LA, aside from what they offered, is their market share in LA. And we're not exclusive with them outside LA. And you've seen brands like Shake Shack do regional exclusivity. Shake Shack tried doing national exclusivity with Grubhub, didn't work because their market share wasn't so great outside New York and Chicago. So they pulled back. And then, to Robert's point, there's really 2 main reasons that, we shouldn't like third party. One is the commissions. Obviously, we're not getting all of that dollar. The second is guest data, right? If someone orders through third party, that third party essentially owns that guest. There are ways to have access to that data with strong third party relationships. I would imagine it's not available to everyone, but these third-party companies are warming up to sharing guest data, understanding the importance to restaurants so that we can remarket them and try to get them to order through first party. But to answer your question, Rob, how do we essentially replicate the experience at home? There's a couple ways. One, we have really crazy to-go bags, and it sounds funny that I say that, but they're super high-end, very fashionable. And in fact, when we launched them, we did an influencer campaign where we brought on fashion influencers to make the Tocaya bag the hottest, fashion accessory of the season. And it became this big thing of, people liked getting the bag as much as they liked getting the food. And, they were tagging us on Instagram, holding the bag. And, we want to create kind of a spectacle with our food. The other thing is music is really central to what we do as a brand. If you were to go to our website and our locations page, you could actually see the Spotify song that's playing at each of our locations. And it's, our music is custom curated in-house. So one of the things we did on the catering side is every time we would send a catering order, we would also send a link to our Spotify playlist. And that would allow them to kind of create Tocaya ambiance wherever they were receiving the order. And the last thing I just want to say, is TJ, brought up a great point about hotels. We've seen a lot of success with hotels. Hotels that have restaurants, we've seen don't really have the occupancy to support operating their restaurants, and that creates an opportunity for us in terms of servicing their guests, but also their employees. They have to provide employee meals, and they're unable to do so in a lot of ways. And so we partnered with a few hotels, and it's been good for us.
Well, so TJ, since that one opened up for you, and one of the things we really want to talk about is leveraging the data and also the loyalty and marketing. So there is getting it out there with the influencers, as we heard, creating the environment, and then also, Robert, I just can't remember the term that you use, but working with how you actually deliver and you operate there as well. But TJ, as it comes to loyalty and increasing it, there may be ways through partnerships like a hotel that you actually gain additional piece in there. But, how can you leverage and take advantage of the data that's available?
Well, again, being a franchisee, we're kind of at the mercy of the franchisor, and we have a solid, our company as a franchisor has provided us a solid online ordering platform, loyalty, email marketing. So all that is great. What we've just realized is we have a lot of local businesses that are keys that we can direct market and do set up delivery to. And then, from the hotel standpoint, it hit me the other day because I'm actually sitting in this hotel that is one of our clients, and I'm right next door to a Chili's, and I will just order Chili's on my phone, go over there and pick it up on my way into the hotel. And the last time I did that, the guy in front of me was a DoorDash driver who literally walked out of the Chili's 50 feet to the front door of the Hampton Inn and delivers the food to the Hampton Inn. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, somebody just paid $5.99 for the guy to walk 50 feet. And why can't we do this directly? And again, I think we're just trying to connect with our key businesses in the area and then expose our brand to people who may not know us. Because in our case, we're in a little bit of a resort community here. And when somebody comes to some of these local hotels, they may not know our brand. So if they go to a third-party provider, they're going to see the common Burger King, Chick-fil-A, Chili's, those kind of brands, and they may not know our brand. But if we have the hotel advertising for us, that then gives us the direct one-to-one relationship with the person, even if they're only going to be here one time. But from the franchisor's perspective, we've now exposed the brand to other people that may not have seen us. And I don't want to sound like I'm negative on third parties, because Easy Cater, DoorDash, and the likes, when somebody sees your logo on their app, that's free advertising. If they don't order from you, it didn't cost you anything. So you do need to be on those places. We're just trying to take, again, I'm an operator. I'm just trying to take a little more direct approach to build sales is really what I'm trying to do.
So Robert, just sort of thinking about loyalty, but also customization, and your history goes more than just Mod Pizza. So I know you know a lot about this in a number of different areas. Are there certain tools that you're plugging into your data or your loyalty to really know what the customers want? Are you using any kind of artificial intelligence in there or outside types of data pieces or things that because you do have a unique environment and customer base, are you doing some things internally to really know that customer and to drill down into what they really want?
Well, one of the benefits of being more digital now is you have more data, right? Customers ordering through your website, through your app, you know where they're ordering from, how often they've come to see you. You can really break down the data that you get from their orders. So yes, and we're fully leveraging that. And just to go back to something that Matt said too, which I agree with, we're also working with a third-party marketplace to share data, so we could see where customers are going, both from a purchasing behavior standpoint, trends, that sort of thing. It's kind of scratch my back, let me scratch your back sort of thing. So that has been one of the benefits here with the pandemic, is the shift to digital, more data, and we're able to further analyze that and get people to join our loyalty club and start reaping some of the benefits around the rewards around joining our loyalty club. So yeah, to answer your question, is that's been a big plus.
So before I shift back to Matt on this question, he mentioned, I'm trying to look exact, you said higher basket size, Matt. I assume that what we're sort of talking about is a higher ticket average and some other things. But Robert, have you been able to use some of that data and loyalty to actually increase your, even if revenue, top line revenue may be down, have you been able to increase your check averages?
Not so much. Well, so check averages, to some extent, yes, but some other things that we've noticed is that, for instance, a shift from the lunch day part to the dinner day part. That's been a pretty big shift, as well as during the week, shift from weekday to more of a Friday night, Saturday night. There's been more of that type of shift. So we've been looking at how do we get that lunch day part back? How do we get that Monday to Thursday lunch day part back? And looking at doing some offers there to try to bring that demand back. So that's just some examples of what data has revealed and how that's shifted our marketing into some areas.
Great. So Matt, did you want to comment on that as well? Because you were really talking about increasing the basket size. Now, it sounds like you did some of that by offering, I think you used the example of offer a 6-pack and some other things, but are there some other strategies that you were using as well for that?
Those are the primary ones. You know, again, we rolled out things like family meal prep, especially when people, towards the beginning of the pandemic, when people were kind of afraid of grocery store visits and wanted to really minimize contact. We never sold toilet paper, which I'm very proud of, but we pretty much sold everything else and really gave them all kinds of options. And the reason why I think basket size is really important now is we're not seeing the same frequency that we would when we have in-store traffic. So obviously, a lot of our store traffic is driven by proximity to office space, et cetera, where people are not going. I think it's much more likely that someone would walk into a Tocaya and get a salad 3 times a week than it is that someone would go on Postmates and order Tocaya to their home 3 times a week, or even go on our app, which we launched about 6 months ago, and order Tocaya 3 times a week. So I think because of the fact that frequency is down a little bit, you know, we're just trying to get as much as we can out of every, you know, consumer.
But you anticipate that some of those things that you've done are going to continue after this is over. I mean, it's not like it's been.
Yeah, I mean, some of them were kind of, you know, like I said to myself, why didn't we sell 6-packs before? If someone wants to buy a 6-pack of Coca-Cola, why not let them? You know, rather than having them press the button 6 times, let's offer a slight discount. If they want to take it off our hands, by all means. I don't see a reason why we wouldn't continue something like that. You know, all the conversations we've had, we anticipate that a lot of these changes we made will probably stick around for the long term.
Right. So TJ, I realize that you're in a rather different situation than both of other panelists because you have one foot in a couple of doors. You've done some consulting in the specialty area. You are a franchisee, a multi-unit franchisee, and you're a beta site, you know, for testing new things, which is a very interesting space to be. So since it's just us on this call right now, you know, are there some things that you wish that you would get as a franchisee, or that you see other companies doing that you think would be applicable across the board?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I appreciate you asking me. I think what I've, again, having the luxury of, you know, interviewing so many different people on the podcast that we have, I've seen so many different things that are available. And so as an example, when we talk to the CEO of a company who just put in a ghost kitchen, I'm sitting there thinking, wow, I could do this. This would be great. But, you know, I got to check with the brand to make sure it makes sense for the brand. What I see the biggest challenges for the larger companies is there are so many things available right now that have come about because of the pandemic regarding technology, packaging, marketing, operations, you name it on down the line, that it's hard for everybody in the corporate office or franchised places to even keep up with everything. And so, you know, my quest is, as I put my consultant hat on right now, is to say, look, I've done all the research for you guys. I can help navigate you through this system because I know what technologies work best. I use them. I'm about to launch a ghost kitchen in my restaurant in the next week or so because I felt like I was lacking in that area, and I'm going to put one in and see what happens. And there are so many technologies that it's very easy to get.
You're going to launch a ghost kitchen for yourself or to service some other people?
I'm talking to my franchisor about what it will be branded right now to determine which way we go with that.
Right, but there are some people. The term ghost kitchen is a rather interesting term because it means different things to different people. But there are some people out there today that are doing ghost kitchen, but they're putting it in existing kitchens or restaurants and adding to the menu and doing it rather than setting up a facility that they may do.
Yeah, so maybe it's a virtual restaurant. I'm setting up another brand. It may be branded under which it may not be. We're working through that right now, but we're going to sell a different product through the third party and our direct delivery channels that won't be available in our restaurant, but we're doing it out of our facility. Because again, I'm a lunch-centric brand, and I've got plenty of I want to keep my employees employed. I want to hire more. I want to grow my sales. I got nothing to do at night in my restaurant, so let's figure out how we can deliver a product that makes sense for the brand. But again, kind of going back to the question, when I talk to people, it's like I get directed to the marketing person that's in charge of takeout, or the purchasing person, or the operations person. They all know their lane very well. They just don't know all the other things that are out there. And so, I'm just taking this opportunity as a consultant to say, look, here's the fully loaded Lexus that you need to deliver off premise and be like a Chipotle, a Panera, a Chick-fil-A, a Papa John's, a Domino's that are killing it out there. And here's how you can do all of those things very cost effectively. I am an operator. I'm paying for this stuff myself. Again, if you guys are old enough to remember, I'm not only the Hair Club for Men president, I'm a client. That's kind of how I approach my business, in that I'm going to try all this stuff and let you know what works and let you know what doesn't, because I love to help people, especially the smaller chains and the independents that are getting just pummeled right now with everything going on.
Great. So, just to remind our audience, we're going to be shifting to Q&A in about 4 or 5 minutes. So if you have any other questions, I see a whole bunch of them been submitted, but if you have some other questions, please do it. Robert, sometimes putting new technology in, which you've done many times with many people, sometimes you put it in out of necessity, which a lot of people have done. COVID, they had to do it. They weren't doing certain things before. But there's a long-term impact of integration and how things work together. And I didn't know if you were fully prepared, or how that strategy works for you as you're looking to put in, all these different things that you might be adding on, but what some of the complexities or thoughts you might have on the integration issues. Are they still challenges today because of cloud, or are they really gone away, or what?
Oh, you just press a button and everything works magically, and all the systems talk to each other, right? Yeah, all kidding aside, integration needs to be part of the roadmap, for the tech roadmap. These systems, to deliver a elevated guest experience, and also, again, for our squad, if you're not improving their lives, it's not going to go anywhere. These systems need to be buttoned up, not only from the individual systems themselves, but also in the integration. So when you look at all the digital platforms, they need to integrate to your POS, to your credit card processor, all your ordering platforms. So, that integration needs to be there. Mod is 100% cloud. All our technology is in the cloud. So we don't have any on-prem servers or data centers, which is great from one standpoint, but it also does complicate things from an integration standpoint. Now, all these systems need to integrate in the cloud, and all these vendors need to make sure they're talking to each other. So yeah, it is a crucial part, Rob, and it needs to be part of your technology DNA.
Great. So Matthew, you obviously as a smaller operator, may face the challenges, or are you, you are being very specific and focused on certain vendors and doing some, one-to-one types of deals in there, but have you faced any integration challenges as well as you were putting different parts and pieces together?
Well, it's the same thing Robert spoke to, which is, everything is moving so fast. There's so many new exciting products that, you want it to work well, you want it to function well for the team, and sometimes they don't all talk to each other, and it can be, very, very complicated. And, we rolled out Order at the Table a few months ago. And basically what we did, without getting too complex, is we essentially hijacked a curbside feature of our online ordering and made it Order at the Table. And it sounds great in practice, and the guest enjoys it, but what does it do to the team? And oh my God, are the drink tickets firing? And all this stuff. So we've had to balance wanting to innovate, wanting to move really fast, but not just kind of blindly throwing things out there that are going to make our systems even more complex and eventually lead to guest experiences falling short. We'd much rather have someone have a solid experience ordering from a cashier than have a clunky, disjointed experience ordering at the table on their phone. So, it requires a lot of input from our head of technology our operators, on our operations team. And then of course, guest feedback, which we're fortunate to be able to get pretty regularly.
TJ, your workforce has probably sort of changed a little bit in what you're doing as well onto this. Have you had challenges maintaining the workforce, what you're doing, or are you guys much smaller scale, so I guess you don't have as many staff that you need to deal with?
Yeah, we're smaller scale, but we've been fortunate, again, other than the first 5 weeks of the shutdown that started mid-March, where we took a huge dip like everybody. Because I have a drive-through, I've actually had to expand and hire more people because I'm significantly busier than I was last year. And for me, it's just, and again, crazy me trying to put in a ghost kitchen and do all this other stuff. I'm have to make sure I'm not just overloading my existing management team with crazy TJ doing other stuff out there, but 2, just making sure that we're being strategic in bringing in more staff and getting them up to speed, because it's great to be busy today, but if we don't deliver a guest experience, as you've heard from my fellow panelists here, they're just going to go somewhere else, because again, they have to trust us. And that really revolves around order accuracy, especially in the takeout space. And so, again, I've been very fortunate. I've spoken for 20 years on how to hire and retain people. So if I can't do it, shame on me. But we've been very blessed in that format. In that one, we've expanded, so I've needed to hire more people, and I don't have people sitting on unemployment, not wanting to come back because they make more money, not working.
So we're going to go ahead and switch to Q&A because we've gotten a number of questions here. And the first one, Robert, is actually directed to you. One of our attendees wants to know, how do you convert a third-party customer to an in-house customer?
Yeah. Boy, yeah, I'll tell you what, if I was able to do that, I wouldn't be sitting on this panel right now. There are tactics you could try. We have not seen great results from that. Like I said before, they tend to be very loyal. Even when we asked, because there are savings to be had if you order directly from Mod or any of the brands represented today. But there's that convenience factor around ordering, through a portal like DoorDash. So yeah, I don't have the answer. I don't know if anyone does.
So I could see Matt waiting to answer it, but before you do, Matt, just taking a little bit of moderator's license here. The hotel industry, went through this for a long time when people started to just buy hotel rooms, not knowing the hotel, right? But what I used to say to them all the time is, once you get them on the property, you turn them into a loyal customer there, and it's through the experience and things, but you don't want to get rid of the channel. And OpenTable did some of the same thing, because sometimes people would look around and then people white labeled OpenTable. So Matt, I know you want to answer this one as well, so go to it.
Yeah, Robert kind of nailed it. There's no silver bullet. And my background prior to being the CMO at Tocaya is I was a partner at an agency called Simmer Group, which worked exclusively with restaurants and did full service marketing. So I've worked with smaller restaurants on this. One very easy thing to do, and again, it's not foolproof, is, put a bag drop in the bag that incentivizes them to order directly from you. If they really love your food and want to save some money, they'll order from you. You'll get that direct sale. You'll have their data. Another piece is like I said, if you have access to some data, being able to retarget them with strategic digital marketing, drip campaigns, et cetera, can be effective. But unfortunately, from the consumer standpoint, I think there's an element of them just loving to browse. It's fun to browse on these third parties. It's fun to go on Expedia and look at all the ones you can afford, the ones you can't, rather than just going to, holidayinn.com and booking directly. So that's just kind of, changing tides and something we have to deal with. But, I think having the systems in place so that if you do get them to order directly from you, like Robert said, it's a great experience, and maybe they're even getting it faster and cheaper, will reward them and incentivize them to keep coming right to you.
Yeah, so clearly, and again, there's lessons to be learned from other industries, and certainly the hotel industry had the same thing, the same type of experience there of how they get there is one thing, and then what do they do and how do they upsell them while they're there as well. TJ, since you do provide some advice and counsel to people from time to time in this area, one of our attendees actually wanted to know, if you don't have a lot of units, how does somebody actually negotiate? Because they may not be a heavyweight in negotiation, but to get a good deal on delivery and ordering platforms.
Well, I don't know if there's a magic answer to that. If you have a very unique product in a geographically dense market like Matthew does with Tocaya, I think you have some leverage regionally or within a city. But if you're a small operator, you don't. And my advice is, look, just get on the app, because you need to be there. As the two guys that Robert and Matthew, they've said it well. The customer likes to browse. My kids are 26 and 24. They sit there and go on DoorDash and Yelp and try and figure out where to eat. Whereas, my wife and I, we have a mental shelf space of about 3 restaurants for breakfast, 10 for lunch, and 15 for dinner. And that's all we ever order from, And so you have to embrace that part of it. But then it's just figure out how you can maximize using it and building the sales that you can. I think, again, if anybody could figure out how to get somebody to not order from third party and order direct, they'd be a billionaire. I'm just like, what we're doing is we're just identifying key businesses that we want to have direct relationships with. Schools are another example, churches, those kind of things. Just selectively pick the ones that you want to support directly. Because again, everybody's raising their prices right now on DoorDash, and I don't know where the ceiling is or any of the third parties. Is it 10%, 15, 20? I don't know where the consumer is going to finally balk and say no more, because that's what we all do on Amazon right now. We go to everywhere and compare prices on other products. We haven't gotten to that point with restaurants yet.
I think that the more that's out there, that the cost is going to come down. And I know people were really focusing on it before, but the whole commission structures and everything else, I think, are going to change, especially as a lot of the providers start integrating with more types of technology, which may provide a lower cost and start getting built in as well. We have a few minutes left here. I'm curious if any of you put in any technologies for the pandemic that really sped ahead, that might have been on your roadmap, but just not right now, and you were able to speed ahead and put something in now, not for the short term, but for the long term, that it was able to do. Robert?
Yeah, I mean, perfection is the enemy of progress, right? So we kind of slam dunked our whole curbside channel. We were in the middle of testing delivery, direct delivery, and we just, went for it and launched it nationwide overnight. So those are just a couple of examples where we just have to go for it and started working on and making improvements as we go along.
Is there anything that you didn't do that you think you should be doing, or you're planning now, that's updated and changed in your strategy and roadmap going forward because of this?
Just enhancing those channels. I'll give you an example, right? Right now for curbside, customers have to call in when they get to the store. Now we want to make it more digital friendly and just either through beacons or press a button that you're here, notify the store that you're here. So things like that are things that we want to improve the experience.
But readily, because you moved everything in your stores to the cloud, it makes it a little bit easier to integrate some of those things.
Yes.
Yeah, Matt, same question for you. I mean, are there some things that you didn't have in place that maybe you were planning to, that got sped up? And are there some things that you really are looking forward that you still really need to do that have been highlighted because of this?
Yeah, I mean, the launch of our ordering and loyalty app was in the works, but we sped it up and got it live, and that was critical. And with that was kind of the order at the table technology. One of our Achilles heels kind of before the pandemic was we had these long lines, which moved very slowly because of all the customization on our menu. And we would see people walk off the line, and it was like the worst thing to see. So the fact that people could go to a table and reserve that table and order was huge for us. And now with the pandemic, less interaction, with the staff, less interaction being around other people in line was super beneficial. One thing we're still working towards is, TJ talked a little bit about order accuracy. I don't think that can be overstated. It's so, so, so critical. You take a frustrated guest in restaurant. So what's that?
Even more so now.
Yeah, I mean, you take a frustrated guest who, gets the wrong item in store, and you compound that by waiting 55 minutes for lukewarm food, and it's over. You pretty much lost that guest. There's some risk involved in all the delivery we're doing because it's not the best representation of our product. And, if we're going to do it, we need to make sure when people order that we get them exactly what they asked for.
But many people have also downsized or changed up their menu also to kind of accommodate that as well in that. So before we wrap up, and I'll start with you, TJ. This will be our last question for today, but are you envisioning, as you look forward, because you really do have your finger on a number of different things, which you have the luxury of being able to be allowed to test yourself. What do you think is going to be the outcome? Let's say digital has been used an awful lot, as the word, right? But what do you think is going to be the positive outcome as it relates to technology in delivery, ordering, catering, that we're going to see people as the pandemic subsides, really deciding to invest on in 2021?
Well, I think I may be in the minority in this, but I know as a customer, I miss going to restaurants with friends and just sitting down and having a beer and having a glass of wine, and this whole social aspect of restaurants, whether it's, for a quick lunch at a fast casual with somebody that we work with, or, at night. And so I cringe with everybody saying, hey, we're building restaurants without dining rooms and it's going to be drive-through only. And I don't know if that's kind of too much the other direction. I know when you think back to retail, I know as a consumer with Best Buy, I today browse online and order and pick it up at the store because I need it right now. I don't want to wait even a day for Amazon because I'm so impatient. I can't even wait a day for Amazon. So I think this blended model that we've seen in retail, where it's order online and pick up at the store, is going to continue in the restaurant industry, whether it's the consumer wanting to order online and eat in the restaurant, so they can bypass the line. We deal with the same thing at Which Wich. I know when I go to Chipotle in Dallas, it's the same thing. I hate waiting in line. If I can order on time, but I want to eat in the restaurant, that's to me where the technology is going to go. And so those companies that can stay on the forefront of basically being anywhere the guest wants to order and having that omni-channel presence are going to be the ones that win.
Before we shift off on that, it's very funny because sometimes people come up with technology ideas that you scratch your head and you say, where did they come up with them? And sometimes they're ahead of their time. And about, I think 4 or 5 years ago at the National Restaurant Show, somebody was sitting there with sort of an order ahead, and you'll pay ahead, but we will seat you at a certain time. And I was just trying to figure out how that all is going to work. But when we're talking about the changing dining room and stuff, that probably is something that is going to come about to enhance the experience, but give them the social piece in place as well. Robert, would you like to take a shot at a few last comments on this?
Yeah, we are always thinking about, what's the store of the future going to look like, right? Is it less dining room space and more space allocated for the kitchen and digital? So you're kind of rolling the dice a little bit based on the information you have now. But you look at some other concepts that have prepared themselves really well for this pandemic, and you're seeing that by having positive comp sales, just because they were ahead of the curve on the digital front. So I think this is a great learning experience for all of us. And as we think about building new stores and remodeling stores, I agree with TJ. I mean, customers are going to come back and dine in. People want to dine in, but we got to be prepared to handle all digital channels and do it well. That's the key thing there. Is you need to do the digital experience well, all your channels well. So those are my thoughts.
Great, thank you. So Matt, you get to wrap this one up with your final parting thoughts on where you think this is going to go next year and where the focus is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everyone. I think some of these practices and behaviors aren't going anywhere, and we're trying to build for the digital future. The way we're looking at it, for those of you that aren't familiar with Tocaya, it is totally experiential. You sit down at a table, you eat with a gold fork, great music, great furniture, big restaurants. We're looking at that, and we want to kind of sell the brand off that experience in new markets, but complement kind of a flagship with potential digital hubs. So, virtual kitchens, things like that. And that's how we want to probably attack markets moving forward. We really think that even though people aren't dining in the restaurant, they're still kind of clinging to a little bit of that Tocaya experience, even when they order delivery. And so we want to continue to put that at the forefront while making digital front and center and making our product as available as possible.
Great. Well, thank you. I want to thank all of our panelists today, and also obviously the audience for attending. It's been a good session. There have been an awful lot of topics that have been covered today. I would also like to thank UE. And the interesting thing about it is that as a provider of online ordering platforms and kiosks and all these things, a lot of the subjects that we talked about today, actually UE does provide, as well as the integration of the POS. So I want to thank them for sponsoring this as well. Each of our panelists, their email addresses are listed below their names. They're happy to have you reach out to them, and you can certainly reach out to me at the IFBTA. And hopefully when things get back up and running, we'll see you at IFBTA member events as well. Before we wrap up, I would also remind you that you can go ahead and find a whole library of free resources at foodandbeverageshows.com. And also you will find that this session will be on the IFBTA as well as the Food and Beverage Shows website and on social media. And I obviously want to thank Clarion, who put this together, representing the Western, the Florida, and the New York restaurant shows. So thank you all for joining us, and I'll look forward to seeing you at the next part of the series that will continue all throughout 2021. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks for having me.